Protect your privacy online with the best VPN for gaming, ExpressVPN, and visit expressvpn.com/GhillieMaster linked in the description to find out how you can get 3 months free. As it's become abundantly clear throughout the lifespan of GTA Online, Rockstar is not the best when it comes to their game balancing. Vehicles that are added to the game are either extremely overpowered, extremely underpowered, or are made with just nonsensical design choices that could either be described as anti-fun or lazy. And we'll even throw in weapons to that bunch. So the mission with this video and further videos of this nature is to observe some of the weapons and vehicles that have been added over the years, and first of all discuss where they went wrong, and then set out to fix those issues by modifying the vehicle or weapon straight from the in-game code. Our first subject is none other than the B11 Strikeforce, one of the coolest planes in the game in my opinion, and the only attack plane to include barrage missiles in its repertoire. The B11 Strikeforce was released as part of the After Hours drip feed in the summer of 2018 to mostly negative reactions from the community. So, where did this plane go wrong? For starters, the B11 is based off of the A10, which is known for having an insanely strong gun on the front, and in-game, it just doesn't share that same feeling. Call it satire all you want, it doesn't change the fact that the cannon is just useless. On top of that, the Strikeforce has handling that is very uncharacteristic for a plane of this stature. In-game, it can compete with some of the best dogfighting jets, which doesn't make any sense to me as its real-life counterpart isn't meant to be a dogfighter. So our objectives for a B11 Strikeforce rebalance are to first buff the cannon to better suit the real-life counterpart, while at the same time not making it too overpowered to avoid creating another overpowered spray and pray cannon jet like the laser and the Hydra. We want the vehicle to be fun and balanced, not something that you get annoyed with every time you see it flying in the air. And to follow up with the cannon buff it will be receiving, we will also be changing its handling quite heavily to give it a weakness for its strong cannon. Taking a look at the vanilla game code for the B11 Strikeforce cannon, and I know this probably seems very confusing for a lot of you, but the vast majority of it you guys can just ignore. Notice where it says EXP tag Rogue Cannon. This indicates that the B11's explosive rounds operate on the exact same properties of the Rogue explosive MGs, so we will modify that file a little bit later. Coming to our first change to be made though, the rate of fire. The code calls it time between shots, but it's basically the same thing. The default value is 0.125, which means a shot is fired every 0.125 seconds, which also gives it a rate of fire of around 480 RPM if my math is correct. We went ahead and changed that value to 0.025, which brings its rate of fire to 2400 RPM, 5 times more than the putrid 480 RPM that Rockstar gave it. A couple lines down from that, we also have the spin-up time. This is basically how long you have to hold the button down before the gun starts to fire. I gave it a slight increase just for dramatic effect, so the cannon doesn't instantly fire when you press the button. There's a slight delay, but it's not too much. And the final thing we did on this page to the cannon was increase its range. It was 200, which just felt way too short, so we tripled the range to a new value of 600, which will give you much more time for a strafe. Now we need to modify the explosion properties, which are found in the Smuggler's Run DLC files. For the most part, I left the values alone, except for one, which is the end radius, or the blast radius of the explosion set by the cannon. We turned that down to just 0.5, which means there's going to be hardly any splash damage to the cannon, and this in turn prevents the new B11 from becoming the laser or the Hydra cannons, where you just have to spray down the road and rely on the blast radius to get a kill. The cannon will be powerful, however you need to actually hit the target in order to do that. Remember, we want it to be balanced and not broken and overpowered. Let's take a look at this new cannon in-game now compared to the old one. As you can see, the rate of fire increase gives it much more usability. However, you can't just spray with it, you have to actually hit the target you're shooting at in order to do that insane damage. And with the range increase, you don't have to get extremely close to the ground in order to hit your shots. And in turn, this is going to reward players who are way more accurate with it and not players who just spray. So in order to give the B11 a weakness, now comes the handling side of things. In current GTA Online, the B11 Strikeforce has really good handling, one of the best dogfighters in the game because of it. If we gave it its buffed up cannon with its current handling, it would be a bit OP, so with that in mind, I gave the B11 handling similar to the Mogul. The only things I left the B11 with were its mass of 14,000, its thrust of 1.6 so it doesn't feel like a biplane when you're flying it, it needs to have acceptable acceleration, and the turbulence magnitude max, which prevents it from having annoying amounts of turbulence when flying it. And this handling works really well for the B11, I have to say. It actually feels like it would have this type of handling. It feels a lot more weighty in the air and it can't turn as easily. It's also unable to fly upside down, which means dive bombing doesn't work all that well with it. But at the same time, it also makes it a bit easier to aim at things because it's not as sensitive to your inputs. And combined with the new cannon, it really does feel like a whole different vehicle, one that is much more unique than the current B11 Strikeforce. And keep in mind, I don't have much experience with coding aside from a couple of computer science courses, and I was able to fine-tune these values and test them accordingly in just a couple of hours in total. But just changing the values literally takes like 5 minutes. I did have a lot of fun making this video though, and I do want to make more of these, so let me know which vehicle I should rebalance next in the comments, or also a weapon for that matter. But keep in mind though, things like armor and aircraft bombs I can't quite access in single player. I would of course love to buff bombs, but they just aren't able to be used in the single player version of the game. And vehicle armor works differently in single player than it does in online, so it wouldn't do much either way. But let me know what you think of the reimagined B11 Strikeforce, and hey, maybe send this video to their feedback page in hopes that they'll change it, I don't know. If you guys enjoyed the video or found it helpful, feel free to leave a like, as well as subscribe to my channel for more guide and PvP related content. I want to give a huge shout out to all my channel members for their support. If you'd like to become a member for some exclusive perks, you can either use the join button, or the link to this down in the description. And as always, thanks for watching, and have a great day.